Hi, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Hannah from Low Profile.
And we're going to be talking about Picture in the Paper.
So we made Picture in the Paper in 2014, and it was a large participatory project that brought different groups of people together who were local resident to Bath to have a series of group photographs taken that were distributed in the local paper and then framed and put on permanent display at the Edge, which was the new Centre of Arts at the University of Bath.
We were approached by Lindsay Hughes, who was the curator for the ICIA at Bath University, and she'd been interested in our work for quite a while. So she started a kind of conversation with us to see if we'd be interested in making and developing a project for the organisation. And she was telling us that the ICIA was going to change and was going to change shape, and that the university were building this new kind of bespoke art space. And they were interested in commissioning us and a few other artists to create something that would engage people in Bath and would be an exciting project to kind of launch this new art centre.
I can remember her specifically saying to us that they recognised that they had this kind of challenge, that this art centre that was on the University of Bath was kind of out of town, a bit out of the way. So the University of Bath is kind of up a hill and kind of not far out, but far out enough that it would be difficult perhaps to get people that lived in the city to go there. And so they recognised that there would be this challenge to kind of engage that community. And she sort of specifically set us this task to do that. So how could we bring people to that art centre, or how could we kind of engage them or make them feel welcome? So initially, I can remember spending quite a lot of time at the university itself, kind of doing a series of site visits there and kind of wandering around the campus, which is massive and really fancy, to kind of see what was there and what it was like to live, some people did live there, but to kind of study and work there. And the thing that we were noticing a lot and were quite attracted to was that there were these series of framed group photographs in a lot of the kind of corridor spaces, but also kind of around like the sports hall and different places like that were documenting, like the faculty, the groups of students and the people that had kind of formed different teams and been parts of different kind of societies over the years. And kind of thinking a lot about kind of how a group photograph captures a snapshot in time. And whilst we were there was also a fair going on, that the student union would have, I imagine, been running, of the different societies and groups that students could join. And there were so many. And we were thinking a lot about kind of how that sort of bubble of being at a university, particularly on a campus like that, and then the difference of what the experience of people might be living in the city, sort of like down that hill, and the different types of groups that form in a more kind of everyday lived situation.
I think we were also thinking about how that translates into like adult life, and how you might be part of maybe like a photography club or a crochet club or something like this as an adult kind of outside of that. But that actually those opportunities to create these new societies or these new clubs or like mini communities aren't that regular for us as kind of grown-ups going out into the world. And I think we were curious to see what different clubs and societies there might be for residents of Bath, or who might already be grouped together through like a shared interest or maybe a profession or stuff like that.
Yeah, so the process of then making the work was that we decided that we would try and find these different groups in the city, and we set up a public campaign to do that. And we were asking people that lived and worked in Bath to kind of nominate a group. So who did they think that we should find out about. And ultimately we wanted to make a series of new group photographs. So we were asking people to suggest a group to be photographed. But we were also interested in kind of groups that are joined together through hobbies or shared interests or kind of profession, and that were kind of formalised in some way. But we were also interested in groups that perhaps weren't formal. So different people that would be joined together.
Maybe like by circumstance, or joined together by like where they lived or what they do regularly. And especially people who wouldn't have met as a group before. So we were intrigued, about whether we could also form some new or temporary groups through making the work.
Yeah, and so this campaign that we ran, I suppose we wanted to kind of reach people in lots of different ways, or as many ways as possible. So we put adverts on buses, we went on local radio, we met with lots of different groups. We worked with a producer called Claire Sharp, who was brilliant, and she did lots of work on the ground as well, because she lived in Bath at that time, to kind of like approach different people. And quite often what would happen is you'd be told a name, you'd say, oh, so-and-so does something, they'd be interested in this, why don't you go and talk to them? So there was sort of quite a lot of kind of legwork to kind of just find people that we thought would be intrigued by the project.
And I think we got like 70 or something suggestions from people, which again was like loads to be working with and loads to be kind of going through and investigating. And that definitely led us to also finding out about whole new parts of Bath, or whole new things that were going on in Bath that we as outsiders didn't have any idea about, but also the people who lived in Bath, who we were working with, that they similarly didn't have any idea about. And so that kind of process of like uncovering stuff that might be a bit hidden, or just finding out something new about the place you live in, felt quite exciting, I think, for different people. So we went through this kind of process of like whittling down from these 70 suggestions down to 20, and then trying to find out individuals who would identify as being part of those groups, so that we could make the invitation to them to come along to these photo shoots. We were setting up these group photograph situations, these group photograph days, over like 4 weekends, and inviting people from those particular groups. So that might be they're part of like an established group, or it might be that they are informally doing that thing.
So we brought together over, I think it was 2 different weekends, a series of these group photo shoots that we then took this kind of group shot of people. And those photographs were then published in the local paper, which was the Bath Chronicle. And we worked with the Bath Chronicle from a really early stage in the project. So we were interested in using the mechanism of the local newspaper to distribute the project to as many people as possible who lived and worked in Bath. And so that came about through the early stage of the campaign to kind of get people to nominate groups. It was followed up by a kind of second stage of that campaign to kind of find the individuals who identified as being part of those groups. And then the third stage was then publishing these group photographs in the paper. And so once we had this set of 18 photographs, we then framed them. That set of 18 framed photographs was then installed at the Edge, so this new Centre of Arts at the University of Bath, for the life of the building.
Yeah, and we got them to sign like a pledge that they would keep, maintain and look after and publicly display these photographs until the building is knocked down, essentially. So if anyone goes to visit the Edge and these aren't on display, you should let us know. And we really like the idea that we would be making and taking photographs that then people would be buying the local paper, cutting this out, having it in like some kind of scrapbook or family album, and that it then becomes like a relic or a reminder of that particular time that again is really like incorporated into people's kind of everyday life. So it's not just about these becoming photographs that are framed and put up on the wall of an art centre, that they also kind of slip into people's own archives. And we were really intrigued about like also this thing of these formal staged photographs, using this kind of school photo setup to help like homogenize the look of these different groups, so that these were essentially normal people, normal folk from Bath, who were lining up to be recorded as part of XYZ group. So we had things like beekeepers, we had people who played Minecraft, we had nurses, chefs, don't know, who else?
People that lived on boats in Bath and played board games.
People who were like attached or associated with Fairfield House, roller derby players as well. Quite a kind of variety of people and lots of different age groups, lots of different walks of life kind of coming together in these photographs and to be part of this like larger set. We got people together for these group photographs, and then when they were installed, invited everyone to come along for a big like VIP event. And we made sure that the people who were in the photographs were the first of any VIPs to come and see and tour the building. So that was really important to us, that really people's participation was being celebrated, they were being thanked, they were being acknowledged, and they were very important people to this arts organisation. So that felt like a really kind of interesting thing to be able to do and create through making an art project.
Yeah, and that kind of invitation to bring a community to an art centre and to do it in a way which slightly then forces the hand of that organisation to continue to care for them and to look after them and to make them feel part of that art centre. I think that was something that we were playing with and we're really interested in doing, because it's one thing to kind of, to bring 200 people to a VIP event, and it's another thing to have an ongoing relationship with them as an arts organisation. So by kind of forcing this agreement around these photographs being on display for 100 years was really to do with that, and to do with, how it's really important that we all kind of have a long-term commitment to our community.
And that sense of like commitment between people and organisations, like how can that be fostered and how can that really, really happen in a place? And I think we were interested in like also how we were kind of showing the potential failings or the failures. So there are some photographs that only have one or two people in them. And that, again, I guess demonstrates that we weren't very in touch with those people. We didn't find it easy to find them, and we didn't plug into a network as successfully as we did with the larger photographs. And I think like showing that in this type of participatory work is quite an interesting thing to do.
So we made these badges that everybody were gifted as part of the project because we wanted to kind of like say thank you. And there were these sort of like shiny gold badges that said picture in the paper. And I suppose we were interested in doing that because we had this idea that perhaps people that were in that group of 200 participants might bump into each other after the event and notice the badge and remember and kind of think, well, I've got one of those too. They must have also been involved in that project. I wonder which group they were in, and maybe they have a conversation about it. So actually, we also created this new group.
We got everyone to make a pledge.
Yeah, we did.
Everyone made a pledge together about looking after each other or looking out for each other, and about community and kind of getting involved with different things.
Yeah.
And that felt like a really kind of, again, like a beautiful way to make this group of unrelated groups become related to each other for that moment.
The most important audience for us really were the participants. They're the primary audience for the work, those 200 people. And we wanted their experience just to be really positive, to be fun, to kind of be joyful. and for them to feel really valued throughout. So we put a huge amount of effort into that. And, you know, and that went from like the hospitality that we provided on the day of the photo shoots, how we hosted those events, the kind of way that we communicated with them throughout the whole process, and that kind of VIP event. And we wanted them to feel really special and part of something quite unique that they would then continue to tell the stories of, you know, throughout their lives. And so the fact that these photographs are then framed and put on display for the life of this building, we hope that means that they will also be encouraged to return there time and time again, and to kind of take people to go and see these photographs. And so this idea that they would then bring people to that art centre and to kind of feel proud of these images and to kind of tell them the story of the project. So the longevity of that work living through them in different ways.